moments, and then to have this break where you have to kind of cool out, but you still have to stay locked in enough. And it's looking like we are back live. We are back to in the game here.
Yeah, he can't TP to the Nexus towers. He's TPing to the inhib tower.
So it is a bug.
The towers are untargetable.
Number 5 and what has been a back and
now they're targetable.
Series.
It's an inhib bug.
Oh
my god, it's an inhib bug.
Jojo still on the
recall, matter, the game's
but
over.
They are not going to be waiting for him. It's going to be all up to Toots. He's really the only one who can try to get anything done. The tower being focused down. Redemption comes through to heal him up. Toots is going to be put with the exhaust. He's trying to kite back. He's trying to go in and make something happen. But can he do
nice
it?
R flash by RS.
Will wipe Furia off the map.
GG.
Will knock them out of MSI and will advance to the next round.
Gam show up huge in game 5. The combination of the Nefiri on the Orianna was instrumental in their success. Kiaya's gangplank, the
Furia's
bot lane
going
weathering the storm. Furia
Gam drop a
put up
3-2.
valiant fight
Big series by Gam.
But it was Gam that walks away victorious.
Now it's time for G2 BLG.
Overcoming so many difficult
I'm going
situations.
to change the title, fill up my water, and lock it.
Really deserving winners here today. Especially the top side for me. Just
G2
really
BLG.
showed out.
Chat BRB on
Levi and Kia. In particular looked incredible. It was absolutely a full team effort. They will now await the loser of the next match. They will play either BLG or G2. Whoever drops down, and that will be the match to decide who is the last team advancing to the next stage and who is the second team exiting MSI.
And I will say now, the head-to-head between Vietnam and Brazil is 7-7. The history and the rivalry that's starting to develop between these two regions only continues to grow. It has been an intense back and forth throughout the years. But Furia, they had an impressive tournament, pushing G2 to the limit, pushing GAM to the limit. A lot of young players on this roster that I am excited to see on the international stage in the future. This was their debut for many. And I imagine that we only have an exciting future for many of these players moving forward.
Absolutely. The youngest team in the tournament, I believe. 5 young Brazilian players here playing their heart out. They went 10 out of 10 possible games, but unfortunately for them, fell just short in both of those series. Heartbreaking losses, to be sure, but I do think that they surprised a lot of people with how competitive they were, how many games they were able to take in matchups that they were really written off on pre-tournament.
And I mean, for the analysts coming into today, Furia was expected to be the favorites, and that's something that I think is massive for the region. People taking them seriously, people respecting what they can bring to international competition, and it's going to be devastating how close they were. Getting a win over G2, getting a win, and I mean, you better than anyone, having that many years of competitive experience, know how it feels to come so close and then lose the final hole. They're going to think about the regrets, but it also helps them learn so much. So I'm excited to see what they show us throughout the rest of the year. Whereas GAM, they seem to have just kind of
South
fixed
NA,
their issues as the series have gone on, constantly pushed, constantly tested, but their bot lane, throughout the sheer amount of bullying that this bot lane has experienced in this tournament, they come up clutch in game 5.
All right, Riot.
And they do an amazing job.
Let's get into the next game quick, yeah? EU fans are fucking seething out here. Get us into the next game quick.
They're going to be scary for whoever actually has to play them. They are.
What do you mean whoever has to play them? It's obviously going to be BLG that has to play them.
They really will push you. They have clearly such a defined playstyle, and they fully commit to it, and I think that does make them a threat to whoever does have to face them.
And for me, like, being an analyst in League, sometimes it's very difficult to quantify the intangibles, but there is an intangible with this roster.
The magic.
There is something that happens that is just a joy to watch.
Absolutely is, and now we're going to be joining Lore and Kiaya, the dominant top laner for the Verizon post-game interview.
Kiaya.
Thank you so much, guys. Kiaya, congratulations.
Oh, Kiaya is so sweet.
On defeating
I hope he comes to Europe.
Talk me through
that would be sick.
5, going into that game, facing elimination on one side, but also with the stage experience that you had over the years. How are you feeling?
Thì vào ván thứ 5 là mình đã rơi vào cái thế mà.
Chat, was it Kiaya who?
Bản thân đội mình cũng là một cái đội có rất là nhiều kinh nghiệm trong cái khoảng này. Thì em đã cảm thấy như thế nào trong cái ván đầu?
Whose story was like
ván thứ 5 thì là cái ván mà quyết định trận đấu, là sẽ một đội sẽ thua, nên là đội thua sẽ dễ, nên là bọn em bản thân em cũng như là cả team á, là hoặc là đội trưởng như anh Khánh á, là có trước khi đánh á, thì có một điều á, là khi mình vào cái hế gọi là cái hế hành lý rồi thì mình sẽ đánh bay cất luôn, cho nên là đó là cái lý do mà game 5 này bọn em đã làm được. Bọn em tin rằng á, là khi bọn em vào một cái hế mà nó bắt buộc mình cần phải làm gì đó thì bọn em sẽ đánh bay hết sức.
It was the fifth game and it was the elimination match. But Levi told me that this is the fifth game, this is the elimination game. But this is actually when we are at our strongest.
Peaking at the last moment,
of
course. And also, Fearless Draft, Game 5, Gangplank? That's a champion that we haven't seen in years. What was the reasoning behind this?
Gangplank là một con tướng mà chị đó chưa thấy em dùng nhiều năm rồi. Vậy tại sao em lại có lựa chọn đó?
Ở lựa chọn đó thì ở cái cuối thì em cũng đã suy nghĩ rất là kỹ và em cũng đã có phân vân là không biết đánh Găng không á, nhưng mà em trước khi trước khi bích á là có vài giây thì em cũng đã nảy ra cái ý tưởng và cũng có một cái rồi đó nó ngẫu hứng á, thì em muốn đánh Găng Lăng cho nên là em quyết định là cầm Găng Lăng, mặc dù là con Găng Lăng mà con tướng mà từ đầu tuần cho đến từ trước mấy tuần trước là em chưa có tập và chưa có tập nhiều á, thì chung quy lại thì cái kèo con Lăng này thì cũng chỉ là cái ngẫu hứng của em thôi, thì em chỉ muốn đánh vào và em tin rằng là khi mà em cầm con tướng này á, em sẽ làm được.
Gangplank is a champion that I have not practiced in weeks, but it's just a random thought that came to my mind when it came to this matchup, and I just did it.
Well, I applaud the random thought here. Kiaya, the casters were saying that you've been playing for such a long time, 9 years actually, and you kept on the same level. You stayed consistent.
There's the G2 boys chat.
So much time. What is the secret behind this consistency?
Em đã thi đấu được 9 năm rồi và cái màn trình diễn của em nó lúc nào là nó cũng rất là cứng cựa. Thì em có bí quyết nào để có được cái màn trình diễn như vậy không?
Bí quyết thì thực sự thì bây giờ thì bản thân em cũng không chả biết là gì á, nhưng mà em nghĩ là em đánh được như vậy cũng lâu dài vậy thì em nghĩ là có nhiều yếu tố. Ví dụ như là em khi mà em thi đấu á, thì em chỉ cần nghĩ là em tự tin và đánh thoải mái, và quan trọng nhất là phải có niềm tin ở đồng đội mình và có cái niềm tin với bản thân mình. Thì trước khi mà phải có niềm tin với đồng đội mình á, thì mình phải có niềm tin với bản thân mình trước. Thì đó là cái mà bí quyết mà em nghĩ là đó là cái yếu tố lớn nhất để mà em có thể mà thi đấu được tới bây giờ. Thì em nghĩ là mình phải có niềm tin vào bản thân mình.
He did not say Cage was a fraud.
Những người quan trọng là đừng nghi ngờ những người đồng đội của mình.
Yeah, how is the translator remember all of that?
I don't have much of a secret, but it all comes down to have faith in yourself. And then have faith in your teammates. Don't ever doubt your teammates.
Well, too many more victories, of course. I had a last question, but I think we're running out of time. What time is it?
It's go time!
Oh, hell yeah, W Kiaya.
In Vancouver. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Kiaya's story, I have it here.
Thank you so much for the translation. And that's all for us.
From a young age, Kiaya faced adversity with economic constraints, forcing his family to sell lottery tickets to survive. Kiaya Gaming Sports top laner faced health challenges, forcing him to abandon school after completing only the first grade. Consequently, Kiaya encountered difficulties in seemingly simple tasks such as arithmetic, reading and writing. Like, he couldn't read and write, I think. I don't know if he can now, or probably can. In addition, Kiaya's battles of fragile health, suffering ailments such as stomach, kidney and respiratory issues, necessitating prolonged medication. His coach was providing substantial support for his medical needs, allowing him to focus on competition. When Kiaya began his first professional season, GAM's lineup underwent the mental shuffle, assembling a group of 18-year-old players. Kiaya did not perform very well. I want to talk about Kiaya a bit because his story was very interesting. He dropped out of school from the first grade and learned to read and write through League of Legends by communicating with everyone. W Kiaya. Big pace. Learned to read and write through League. I had to drop out in the first grade. The first grade. And now he's the pillar of the fam. Hell yeah, Kiaya. Alright, it's time. I think a lot of people, there's a lot of people who I met through League who said they learned English through League. Or like their English got better. W video games. Bro, you can't just say do something funny. I want to go straight into draft. I want to see. Oh my god, it's Caps versus Knight. It's Qmond against Beishuan. Bean versus BB. Hans Mama versus Elk. My expectations are low, but my hopes are high. You know what I'm saying? It's a 3-0 deluxe. It's not a 3-0 deluxe. Shut up. It's a G2 3-0 deluxe. EU fans, stay strong. I think the worst outcome for the EU fans is G2 win the first game, because then they're like, oh, for fuck's sakes, now I actually have to stay up. Whereas if BLG stomps them in the first game, they have an excuse to be like, oh, I guess I'll go to bed.
In today's featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz, G2 takes on BLG with the trip to the bracket stage on the line. G2 Esports narrowly escaped disaster on day one, with Furia taking them to silver scrapes and very nearly pulling off the upset. The LEC 2 seed came out flat on day one, but a win today would silence the doubters. To do it, they're going to need to overcome their kryptonite. Elk on the chase! Cap's trying to make the difference, the ulti! Hansama taking out Elk versus the world! Elk continuing to find the angles, the slower's there, the double kill is there!
Don't remind me.
BLG have eliminated G2 from 3 of the last 4 international events, and they have a chance to put G2 on the path to an early
Stop
flight
reminding
home.
me.
The LPL representatives took care of business versus GAM, and while they may have had a few shaky moments of their own, a 3-0 is still a 3-0. Will BLG punch an early ticket to the bracket stage, or will G2 finally exercise their LPL demons?
E2, I need it now.
Death taxes, G2 versus BLG here again. But honestly, given how G2 looked yesterday, I would be even more worried than I usually am for the LEC representative. That was not pretty against Furia.
Yeah. Usually when G2 comes into an international event, you get a little like a
Wear a
spike of
Weibo
hope that
shirt
comes
for the
through.
memories? No.
I'm scared as hell. I don't know what to expect, Emily.
I mean,
Okay.
I think that I still saw some of BLG's flaws.
What do you mean,
I
for
do
the
think they
memories?
should
What
be
memories,
favored
you
in this
fucking
matchup.
rat?
Not only because of G2's kind of ups and downs throughout the split, but again, as we touched on it, they had a very rough day against Furia.
What did it come down to, though?
For me, specifically, it felt like at the very top side of the map, we expected Broken Blade to come in hot with his picks. Actually, he was getting dominated throughout the series. It started with the solo
Dominated.
kill, and then as the series continued, he was getting targeted by Tatu. So, like, for me, I need to see a
Dominated.
lot more consistency coming from him. And then it was Skumon that was actually kind of tilting it back into G2's favors top side later on in the series.
Yeah, and for me, I think G2, we saw when they were able to slow down the game, kind of not be surprised. It was a lot more methodical, right? Especially in Game 2 and then again in Game 5. And that's more what I want to see from G2, just like more control, especially around objectives.
Actually, I had a chance to catch up with Caps yesterday after the series, so let's check out what he had to say in the Verizon Game Day interview.
Caps, thank you so much for joining me ahead of
Caps,
today's
talk to me,
series.
baby.
First things first.
Talk to me.
Quick reaction on the matchup against Furia. Going to Game 5,
Bro,
not
Caps
something
is
that
like-
we expected. So what do you think went wrong for that series that you can make better?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely happy with the win, but it was a lot closer than we had hoped
Is
for.
he
I
rocking a
think,
mullet?
Furia came in very strong, and I think we often have this problem where when we don't play stage for a while, we look very rusty. And I'm happy we got to get a bit more comfortable throughout the series. But we definitely want to step it up for today.
Something that we've been talking about is the fact that you have so much international experience, being like the longest standing member at G2. Any piece of advice that you gave Lebrov or Skumont ahead of MSI, especially going into LPL?
He said, don't fucking int me.
I mean, I think a lot of it was, of course, a lot of like jet lag. Dealing with jet lag was at the start of coming here to Canada. But I think aside from that, of course, we don't want to like overhype playing against LPLCA. They are very strong and they've beaten us many times.
Yeah.
But they are not invincible and they make mistakes, right? And it's just important that you stay focused when we play against them and keep looking for like whichever out we can get to actually win the game.
I feel like something you haven't been used to in your career, especially internationally, was to be playing as the underdogs, being underrated.
Chat.
Is that
Get the
something that you
mood lights
enjoy,
on.
though,
I know
in
it's
this
dark
position?
outside in EU. Get the mood
yeah,
lights on.
I think
Get
definitely get surprised. So
You're about to watch it
we're
happen,
looking
baby.
to show
You're
some,
about to
some
watch
good
it happen.
performance.
About to get
Underrated is
fucking
the key
smoked.
here for G2, but is that going to be enough?
All of
Because
them.
Hansama also
Will be
series
exclusively
showed that
biased to
Cheeky
G2.
Sports
You're
saying
getting the
that
heads up.
when they play good, but when there's other times, everything is all over the place. It's total chaos. Lanes
Sometimes
are
all over the place.
Lanes,
It's chaos.
I
Lanes are
feel like
losing.
you
And we
cannot
act
allow
very
these
passive.
mistakes
That's
today,
not.
especially
That's
against
what
BLG.
we need to work on.
Exactly. I think a lot
So
of
we
people
need to
are
work
focusing
on
individual
everything.
lanes and solo kills and it went to a game 3. Those situations happen, but this time their hope is a little low.
Just popping off
Oh,
on
me too,
Ezreal
Sunny.
as we saw kind of leading into this. A bright spot for, wow, okay.
That's my
We already know Raz's prediction.
That's what I'm looking
But I
at.
did want to
Get
highlight
out of the honk,
on,
wait.
yeah, what?
The honk is just the sound.
The
red-
honk
Get
is
out
just-
of
the
the
honk
what?
is
That's a
to
suggestion.
remove the expletive.
Yeah, that's just a
that
suggestion.
in Raz's mind.
Yeah.
I thought On had a stellar performance. We highlighted Bin, right?
Yeah.
He ended up being player of the series for yesterday because of how he got back online. But I thought On
Well,
consistently
BLG fisted
throughout
Gam,
this
and
entire
Gam went to
series
5 games
was
against
phenomenal.
Furia
He
and beat
just
them.
saw
And
amazing
G2 went to
handles.
5 games
There was
against
one
Furia
time
and beat
where
them.
Ares
So G2
was in a
equals Gam,
position
and
'cause
Gam
had
equals
great
fisted.
positioning
So what
around
does that
Dragon,
mean?
but
That
then
means
the moment he
G2's
saw
gonna
him
make
miss,
it happen, and they're gonna
instantly
3-0
found the
BLG,
engage.
and they're gonna make
especially
nothing
if
make
we're going
sense.
into LeBrava, who I thought had a very off night
Yes.
yesterday. We need to see a better version of LeBrava. We need to see a better version of G2 to be able to contest them.
What about BLG? Because
If you're an
I feel
EU
like
fan
we
and this
came
goes to
into
5
this
games and you watch every
thinking that
single
they
one,
were going to be a weaker team compared
you're
to
such a fucking
the
you're
team
such a
that
fucking
they
goat.
sent at Worlds last year. What are the takeaways after seeing them play yesterday against Gam? Still, but Emily, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think BLG, it was kind of interesting to see, especially the bot side plays against BLG in that game 1. That was a little surprising, but overall, I think BLG still have the same strengths and the same weaknesses. When they are on the same page and they're able to get these fights, play around their lanes, it's good. When they aren't, it's very bad.
I got to ask the follow-up, because you gave him an extra game here. You think it's going to go to 5, and you've talked about the weaknesses from BLG a little bit. Expand on that a bit.
I just think it has the potential to be really, really back and forth. I think when G2 are playing at their best, they actually can be a lot better than BLG on the map. And then it's going to come down to, okay, can they win the team fights? Because I think where BLG comes back is either through just raw laning power and then also their 5v5. You cannot underestimate this team in team fights.
Talking to Ben yesterday, to this new very
G2 baby,
PR 29.
get that aura, get that lock in. BB looks fucking in the zone.
What's going on about that?
Their worst enemy is themselves. Do
Yeah.
you guys
So
agree on
true.
that?
Yes, absolutely.
In the fucking
like,
zone.
This team has the potential. They have
Talk to me,
two
talk to me, talk
of
to
the
me. Let's get it.
potential best solo laners in the world. Their bot
Bin
lane
has a
been
lot
one
of
the
tissues.
best
What the
bot lanes
fuck?
in the world previously, right? If they are all on the same page, they can be the best or one of the best teams.
He's
in
playing
the world.
Rumble in
And I've
practice
seen
too.
consistency
Sorry.
from Knight. I think Knight's been really scary as a player.
Hey!
Elk
He's
and
playing Rumble in
Bin,
practice
the
too!
two players
Bennett!
that have been really like demons when they went up against G2 in the past, either on like the Philios for Elk or something. Any play, honestly, any pick that he's played in the past, he's been incredible. We just need to see that level on a consistent basis. This could be the starting point for them if we're trying to find confidence going into the major stage. But they need to be able to get past G2 first. And G2 is a team that anytime we count them out, it was the same narrative just last year at MSI. There was like, there's no hope for them. They had a really shaky split. All these things happened. Then they came in and had a lot in the bag and a lot in the tank that gave other minor regions or North America or Europe a lot of faith when going up against the best teams.
We're seconds away from this second series of the day. Where do we want to look at in the early game on the side of both teams?
For me, it's the jungle, because both of these junglers don't have the international experience. Skumond as a player, like first international for, like first MSI for him and all these things, looked great yesterday. I liked his Maokai. Beishon also looked great too, so I feel like the nerves hasn't been really shown that much, but also they haven't been tested on international like this.
For me, I want to see classic BLG. I want to see something
That
like
guy
I saw in
Sign said
Game
the
3
Shy is
with
Bin's
those
father.
bot lane plays using
I mean,
this bot lane that can be so strong. I'd like to see that, a return to form.
All right, I want to have an exciting series. It is LEC versus LPL after all the stages set. We are ready.
I mean, the Shy is everyone's father apart from Zeus.
Thank you so much, Lore, Emily, and Raz. I'm Dracos here alongside Kobe. Thrilled
Ooh,
to be bringing you
Dracos
this
and Kobe
best
for
of
G2
5
BLG.
fearless series
Oh,
between G2 and
oh
BLG.
that's gonna keep
And
everyone awake.
I can't fault the analyst desk for their predictions of BLG across the board. It was a little bit shaky from G2 yesterday. But I think
A little bit shaky.
You can say that. I was gonna start by asking how
A
nervous
little bit
are
shaky.
you
incredibly
coming into this one?
It was fucking
I mean,
disgusting.
there is a quote from a very wise
And I would
man
say that on the
said,
cast, it was
doesn't
fucking
matter if
disgusting.
you win by an inch or a mile. Winning is
Fact.
winning, Daniel.
If you cross the
Okay,
line,
and that's-
you
that
can't.
is something
You
that really matters
if you
for G2 after what
when
we
you
saw
cross
yesterday,
the line,
and especially
that
for
means you
Broken
finished.
Blade, if he comes into this series playing like that, it is going to be very, very bad for G2. So, you know, they have to lock in. But one of their coaches did address this on Twitter. G2 Memento did tweet out talking about, yeah, I'm sure all of you have no faith in us to do well, and that is okay because the boys have faith in each other, and so do we. You might be surprised at how things can change from
Oh, we're
day
in draft.
to day. So see you tonight.
Ooh, we are in draft.
You know,
Talk
things
to me.
can change.
Talk to me.
I like his perspective.
TF ban, Poppy ban. Okay, TF out for G2. Not too bad. I really want to see Talia Prio and Ari Prio. Ta. I want to see G2 either trade or ban one or have an answer to the other. Because if you watch BLG first pick Talia and Knight plays it, okay, Talia ban, nice. Nice, nice, nice. Now I'm wondering Pantheon Ari. Bean is sick, is he?
Chovy played it. A lot of people, practicing that. So,
Why is he sick?
Yeah, Twisted Fate, though, as you say, off the table with the Azir, and so you get that trifecta, the Azir, the Talia as well. Once you start to see
Varus
the
ban.
mid-lane bans coming through.
And the jungle pool.
Do you
wide
ban
open,
Ari?
So we'll see if that's a priority for either
Do you ban
side here, right?
a
Beishon,
Pantheon?
Pretty solid start to the tournament, despite I think low expectations for him individually.
I don't know if you would first pick Ari.
The point that we were just talking about. So
Wukong ban, that champ is strong. Facts. So there's Pantheon, Xin Zhao Vi. There's Ari, Annie, Silas. There's Rumble, Gwen. Annie first pick, really?
Also a very good pairing. There's so many AD junglers
The
that you
volume
could
is so
play
low.
with it, and already they hover
Annie
a couple.
first pick. Xin Zhao
Debating what they want to
first
go
pick.
for. Annie, the utilities in,
Annie
can be
first
that
pick.
early aggressive playmaker.
Okay, Annie first pick. Caps did play it. Utility mid. So I think the good thing about this Wukong ban is it does stop like Annie Vi or sorry Annie Wukong Rumble, something like that happening, right? G2's answer to that naturally would be Galio. I think Pantheon, Xin Zhao are the junglers that'll be traded unless Vi is high prio. I think G2 probably Pantheon Ari is their best bet. Or what else counters Annie? You could do Pantheon Galio early if Galio's good into it.
This is the other one that we were
Pantheon,
talking
nice.
about, though. When
I think
Wukong was
Ari's
banned,
good.
Pantheon
I think
priority
Galio
here,
flex is good.
Really, really high. That is also
Jax?
a very
I'm not
good
gonna do
skew on
Jax, no way.
champ. So the response here, I think you should be feeling, pretty good. It's very
Kobe, it's okay.
Orianna?
I appreciate you.
Orianna's good in lane,
After
but I
every
think the
play,
champ
after
itself
every
is
pick,
just
it's
too
not- you
stale,
don't have to
too
check
immobile, too
After every
fucking
game, yes, please. The
stuck.
second we're off air, I need you to console me.
It's also not an elimination series here. This is a promotion series.
Aurora.
But there it is, that Aurora.
Caps Aurora.
Again, a
Caps
lot of these
Aurora.
playmaking mids that pair so well with these AD jungles.
So here comes Xin Zhao Rumble,
really quick
very
to
likely,
snap
and it'll
up
get
here.
answered by Galio.
And it looks
This
very
is where the
even
Wukong
so
ban
far.
comes in. I think they're smart.
Some people
G2 is
have
saying
their
we don't
favorites
play
for
Rumble.
these two champs,
BLG does
do
play
well.
Rumble.
I
It's
am
likely
a
they'll
pretty
pick
big
it.
fan of the
And if we
Annie,
remove
but
Wukong
I'm
from the
actually a
Rumble
bigger
comp,
fan
it
of
makes the
Pantheon
Rumble
than
comp
the
less
Xin Zhao,
strong.
so
If they had
you're
Wukong here, I think their
splitting
comp would be a lot
them
stronger.
there. And then
Now,
the
G2's answer
Rumble
here is
does come in
Galio
from
or it's
Bin, and they
Ornn.
pick
These
it
are
a
the
lot,
two
but he
responses
literally
to
said
Rumble
himself he
naturally.
doesn't like it.
And then I guess it's
So,
just AD drops,
It-
right?
It's weird because because when you look at the expectations for these top laners coming into the tournament, Broken Blade did admittedly have a rough day.
Why don't they ban Rumble? Because they can play into it.
Roles, great at their best, but
Rumble's nerfed, but they're making the Rumble comp weaker so they can play into it. So they're going to go for the Ornn. Alright, now here comes bot lane prio. Big bot lane prio. You're looking at Zyra Khans, you're looking at Kalista lanes, you're looking at Lucian Namis, you're looking at Ezreals. Actually, maybe not Ezreal. Depends what they ban. Okay, Kalista ban is solid. Kalista ban is solid.
Topside, because yesterday was very rough.
Jhin is very good in BLG's comp. I really like Jhin with Rumble Any. I feel like that shit is strong.
Very clearly, they're just all in.
It gives a lot more pick.
Both sides here are going to have so much heavy engage.
Yeah, and I like ease of execution for the side of G2 after that rough day one, but I am still nervous. Even if Bin isn't the most
I think BLG need like a Nautilus or like an Alistar.
We've seen how good Rumble can be. Even if the lane phase isn't dominant,
Braum ban, okay.
So much power paired alongside that Annie. But now we head into the second ban phase. Braum
Alistar's pretty strong, yeah.
And even if he says he doesn't like it, it's his most picked and played. So, all right. So bottom lane here, the Braum
Xayah ban.
That does open up
that
more of the like
screams Kai'Sa plus Nord / Alistar.
Counter engage will have
Xayah ban kind of screams Kai'Sa a bit. So what could happen is Kai'Sa, Jhin, Nord, Rel. Something like that might happen. Depending on the last ban, they could remove the Kai'Sa. And then I think the G2 maybe takes an Ezreal on 4, but it's not really a Hansama pick, so maybe they just take a Jhin. I think Hansama, Ezreal, I mean,
that going into the hands
Ezreal's really good in their comp, or they can just pick Jhin and deny it.
Track here will be what does the rest of the composition look like? Because right now we
you can't blind Raven chat. They'll play like Ashe or some shit. Yeah, Ezreal's good. Now I think it's probably Jhin plus Nord or Rel or Alistar, and then they'll just match support, and that's basically what will happen.
And thus, of course, they're able to find that creative angle.
It's exactly what I was going to say. Is Xayah the other really good anti-engage AD
They don't give Elk Ezreal. Yeah, Elk Ezreal was frying at MSI last time.
Is exceptional on that champion, so it was really a must steal away.
Lucian Nami.
Very good one.
Lucian Nami. Ooh, MF Alistar.
Misfortune though.
MF Alistar.
Big ultimate combination.
Ooh, that gets met by Leona.
Annie,
Leona on 5 for G2.
Alistar setups.
Wow, a lot of
and
fighting.
Misfortune.
A lot of fighting.
You're gonna have some
a lot of fighting.
Most certainly. And normally, you heard me complaining about it backstage. We won't get
Chat, I'm gonna run ads. If you want to avoid ads, you can use the tier 1 of our Twitch Prime. Subscribe to the channel if you sub now. You won't get ads to the entirety of MSI. I'm gonna run the ads soon and get the ads in the game. I hope you understand because. Alright, let's lock in. You fans lock in. NA fans lock in. Hate watchers lock in. Love watchers lock in. Big fighting G2 really.
Can you cheat at drinking wine? To become a master sommelier takes years, thousands of dollars, tough tests, and just the right amount of obsession. One secret email, the elite world of wine, swirled, sniffed, and shattered.
It was career suicide. This is some Skull and Bones Society stuff.
It's time to spill the truth. This is Corked. Listen now, only on Audible.
Wombo comboing, so G2, they have some more outs with a little bit of extra global help here for them to put more threats on side lanes later on and try and push more decisions towards BLG, which I think is going to be a good strategy. BLG are notorious for taking a lot of fights that they don't necessarily need to in a lot of positions.
And to be clear, macro, so. They're notorious for taking all the fights. Some of them they need to, some of them they don't need to. This is a very aggressive team. When everything is clicking, as we heard from the desk, they look incredible. They have the hands to back it up. But sometimes the composition, the map state, the setup, it's just not there.
Ooh, the shy sign.
When they can get some early leads, when they can snowball, boy, do they. Early skirmishes here, watch out.
Something we'll keep track of as we get ready
Here we
for
go.
this
Game 1. BLG versus G2.
Again, not an elimination match, but still pressure on for both of these teams.
Winner goes to group stage. Loser plays against, spoiler alert, Gam.
Going up.
And this is something I love about the LPL fan base. I feel like no matter where we go in the world, they're always there to greet us. Gio's fuel for this BLG team. Favored in this matchup, most certainly. But I think for both these teams, it's not enough to win to scrape by. You want to look dominant in this matchup.
Yeah. And the death set up really nicely. There's going to be a lot of eyes on junglers for both of these teams. You know, international experience here, not there for either of the junglers. Both BLG and G2 have kind of had rocky roads this year. And the junglers here showing up on stage, we'll see. That's why we highly prioritize that, you know, comfortable pantheon for Skewmont.
Of course, it's also comfortable for Beishuan here, but a lot of eyes will be on them. Day one, of course,
It's
from
Joey.
them. Beishuan, nice performances, especially with the bottom dives.
WK
Kind of bring
shadows.
back some classic BLG style when they had Shen on the team. Last year MSI going for lots of bot lane dives. Not this time around though.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to see Xin 2 early on.
It's lethal tempo Ezreal, and it's stacking up. Oh, nice trading from G2 bot lane. Hey!
Relatively stacked.
Oh, hey, really nice trading from G2 bot lane.
Obviously, yeah, notoriously a champion who is super weak, level 1. No aftershock for the Alistar. Also going to make some of those early trades a little bit rougher, even if that damage reduction.
That's a volume increase.
We'll feel pretty good as we go later into the game.
Yeah. So early priority for bottom lane achieved for G2 very nicely here. Good
Another
chunks.
Q hit.
Alistar, of course, is going to help heal up the lane for later on as well, but both junglers will be pathing down hit there, so see how much they can pressure on and deny early. Plus, who is going to make the early visits towards mid lane? Because these two mid laners both have huge potential in this game and in this series, especially on these two champions. If you get an Annie ahead, you can roam around so much, make so many plays. Exactly same for Aurora. Whichever one does get the lead, kind of like can take that lead to the rest of the team.
Look, bot CS.
Such a good value proposition for either jungler. If you go mid,
oh, another
you know you're winning more than just that mid lane.
Yeah.
Nice bot lane, nice.
Earlier, Skewmon
Double the
was
CS already.
Is clear, but so far no concrete.
Let's go, Hansen LeBron, baby.
I imagine they can guess.
Another Q in his face.
Side clear, but I think BLG playing with a little bit higher level of confidence.
Yeah, yeah. And G2, good brush control from them. Sweep out the
Another
ward,
Q in his face. Wait,
continue to
Hansama
poke
is
away
low-key
here.
scripting.
But it is options too for level 3. Don't get much of it. Nice little interruption there from On. Junglers not going to skip
Caps is
any
getting a
camps
bit
too
fisted.
quickly. Looks like full clear completed for each of them. With the bottom side push, that Scuttle Crab is Skewmon's, but we
It's
get
the
the
matchup,
recall
maybe.
pretty early on from Caps as well.
Let's just say it's the matchup.
Yeah, Caps forced out in the early lane. Annie, a lot better of mana usage, a lot easier to use that mana.
Not gonna lie, I do
efficiently
not know the
recon
Aurora
Q.
Annie matchup.
Both have good timings actually, and the Darksteel pick